The following program is a production of Destiny Creative.
Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, wake up!
Welcome to the show, my friend. Thanks for coming round again.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Okay, everybody ready? Yeah, you know, like I got some fresh ideas, you know?
What's shaking, cats and kittens? Welcome to the OKC Show. I am your host, Jason Baffrey, and we are happy to be back for show number 2 of the OKC Show, the program that is all about the cool and interesting people that make up the Oklahoma City area. And we will talk about a little bit of everything throughout the course of the program, not just tonight, but in all of our upcoming shows. We had a great guest for our first podcast in Daniel Gordon. If you have not checked out that show, please download it from our website. And, of course, the website is okcshow.com. You can find us on Twitter at OKCShow. Also, our Facebook fan page is worth taking a look at. And we're proud to be here and having lots of fun. It's been an interesting day. It's been hot, whereas our first show, it was pouring down rain, and we had to swim to get here. Today it's been about 99 degrees and 110% humidity, and that is Oklahoma weather and what makes this state so wonderful at times. But we are excited to be here once again at the Destiny Creative Studios, and we have a great guest lined up for the evening, and we are joined this evening by Mike Koehler. He is a public relations pro and former newspaper man. And Mike, glad to have you in the studios.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Jason. Thanks for having me. We'll see what we can do tonight, and it'll be fun.
Well, we have plenty to talk about, and you have just launched off onto your own. You spent over a year with a local PR firm handling their new media, but tell us about what's going on now, because things changed for you dramatically in the last couple of days.
Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of days, and interesting past few weeks, actually. Monday was our first day of our new business. We launched what we're calling Smirk New Media. It's a business, basically me and the what's between my ears, a laptop and a bunch of business cards, talking to folks about how they can use new media and all of these tools on the web to talk to their customers and to get attention for their business.
What precipitated this move for you?
Well, I'd been really thinking about sort of the opportunity that was out there if I sort of made this next step. I've been talking to a lot of friends of mine who've been encouraging me to go out on my own. For me, it was really a question of opportunity, of being able to not just necessarily work with one firm and one stable of clients, but really being able to partner with many, many firms, a whole lot of different people in the marketplace, and just see what I could do with this. I think the timing was really right for me. The interest in social media continues to sort of crest, and so I felt like if there was any time for me to make this jump, it was now, and to really leverage that excitement that was in Oklahoma City and the expertise that I was able to bring to bear.
And when you approach this, how do you define new media and what you are doing?
Well, it's funny. When I first got my previous job at Snacky Turnbow Frank, we talked a lot about what to call that position, and there's sort of this big discussion online of new media, quote unquote, versus social media. To me, new media is not just Twitter and Facebook, but it's all of these tools that have bubbled up to the surface even in the past 18 months. It's what you can do with video, what you can do with live streaming video, what you can do with geolocation. To me, Foursquare is a new media element, and it's not as much of a social media element. So to me, new media has sort of the broadest definition of tools that are available online that can help people out and connect.
And in the Smirk New Media, talk a little bit about your approach, how you're working with businesses, what you bring to the table when you connect with somebody.
Well, I'm trying to draw as much as I can on both my experience working at a professional service firm and what I learned in 15 years in the journalism business, most recently when I was the multimedia editor at News OK. So what I'm focusing on as far as services go is being able to help your business connect with people online using these tools. But we're also pitching a lot of sort of content management, and that might sound boring to people, but for me it's being the person that bridges the gap between a business and their website as far as figuring out what words am I going to be putting out there, what am I going to be sharing with people, what do I know that's going to bring value to people, because like I wrote in the blog this morning, a lot of people take that leap into the online world. A business owner will say, I'm going to have a Facebook page, I'm going to have a Twitter page, and I'm going to have a website, and it's really going to be great. And then they sit down in front of their computer, and they're like, now what do I do? What do I put on there that's going to do me any good? And that's really where we're talking to people.
Yeah, you can only distribute so much Farmville information.
Right. There's a funny story about that. To me, content, it's sort of a word that we throw around all the time about the stuff that's on the internet. But to me, there's real value in that. And if you get that right, if you get that idea of sort of what do I, Jason Baffrey, have in my head that will draw people, if you can figure out what that thing is, then that's going to determine a large part of your success that you have online.
I can tell you right now, I'm nothing but an empty shell and a couple of golden pipes. That's about it. So, starting a new business with the current state of the world, the economy, I mean, you're with a successful local firm, and I don't know all the details on STF, but probably one of the larger PR firms in Oklahoma. Has to be kind of not a cush job, but a certain amount of security there, and then you decide, now's the time. I'm going out on my own. That must have been a difficult decision to make in some ways.
Yeah, it really was. And but big risk, big reward, sort of what I convinced my wife of. But to me, I'd really been very diligent about building up a brand in our community. People related who I was online with somebody who knew sort of what they were talking about in this space, because I'll tell you, there's no shortage of social media experts in the world.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I mean,
and so I felt like I had learned, through being with Schnocky, who really gave me some great lessons as far as what it means to provide professional services and sort of expectations that businesses have and what really works, that, I'm going to be able to draw from that and really sort of have a little bit of an adventure here. And there's enough work initially where, things are going to be okay, but the upside is really as much as I want it to be. So.
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel about this. I mean, obviously, since you're doing this, but I feel like right now with the job market and everything that's out there, really the only way to move ahead and move forward is to do something on your own. And you see, I think you're seeing more people take that leap off of the edge, and because it's so difficult to find a job right now. And fortunately for you, you were not in that position. You were able to make that decision that you were ready to move into your own deal.
And that's really where I'm finding partners or potential partners with a lot of enthusiasm. I think Oklahoma City is kind of unique in that we didn't get it as bad as other people got, and we have some. As corny as this might sound, we have some pioneering spirit in sort of the people that live here, and so there's a lot of folks out there trying to make their own way. And what we've really talked about, my wife and I have really talked about, at the heart of how we're doing our business, is we want to help other people succeed. And I feel like if you sort of keep that, at the center of what you're doing, that's where we're going to find our most success. We'll partner with, some solo PR practitioners who are out there and want to service their clients and want to provide social media, but just might not have that capacity. Web design firms who are so busy that they need help figuring out content for their clients. Things like that, where I can come in and partner up and really help somebody add capacity, I think is where we're going to see some success. And just to sort of go down this road a little bit more, we really prayed a lot about how this was going to work. And what I kept coming back to was that I had developed this network of people online that, to me, were really flesh and blood folks. Were people I've had lunch with, people I've hung out with, people whose brain I've picked about various subjects. And just in the run-up to launching the business, we were really able to lean on those folks for advice, lean on those folks for potential partnerships, and as much as some people might sort of poo-poo this whole notion of, your social network, or are these really your friends or not? To me, I wanted to walk the walk and say, yes, if you do this right, your social network can really help you out in ways you really can't imagine, and that's what the business that we're getting initially is really a testament to that.
Well, that sounds great, and I guess the most important part is you have figured out a way to be able to make a living doing that. And
well, yeah, knock on wood.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of what you said, it goes back to an elemental thing that Zig Ziglar, the great Zig Ziglar, says, is you can get everything in life you want as long as you help enough other people get what they want.
Right, and that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah, and I think you see the people who are succeeding, especially online, and this is, as I try to sort of make that a little bit more real for people, you see that the companies that are succeeding online and the individuals who are succeeding online are, for the most part, helpful, honest, transparent. I can do the whole Boy Scout code for you. Right. But, a lot of those virtues that people value are coming to bear more and more in the world of marketing and PR and things like that.
Well, I think in a situation certainly with businesses, but even on a personal level, right. I mean, if you're going to be online with the way everything is now and the social networks, if you're not transparent, somebody's going to figure you out pretty quick.
Right.
So if a business...
you just asked BP, about the value of transparency online. So, I think that's... people are really forgiving, and if you're going to have this relationship with them on the social networks, it's okay for you to say, "Hey, I screwed up," and and they'll know that if they've come to trust you or come to see you as a valuable part of their day, which is what we talk to people a lot about, then they'll, that'll be like, "That's okay, we understand, and let's go on and continue this relationship."
Let's talk a little bit about, you brought it up earlier, the plethora of social media experts that exist out in cyber world. It seems like every time, there's a new follower or you find somebody new, there's, for every one, there's 50 more social media experts, or at least claiming to be. That's a pretty thick market to be involved in.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on that?
Well, it's interesting because it's really become sort of a punchline online. I mean, social media consultants are the used car salesmen of the internet. And it's hard for me because I feel like this really grew organically for me. I didn't just wake up one morning and decide, hey, this is what I want to be when I grow up. But it really grew from my experience at the Oklahoman and being sort of the guy who could find stuff out on the internet, and that eventually grew into, helping develop specific content for the web, which is, the way that we're sort of evolving, which grew into being the multimedia editor and doing some really exciting and interesting things online with the community that grew up around News OK, and eventually into this PR function where it was more helping businesses create those sort of communities. So it hasn't been sort of a overnight deal by any chance. And there's some social media people out there who feel like I've got X number of followers, I must be an expert at this, pay me, write me a check each month and I'll tell you how to do it too. Because even though yesterday they might have been whatever, washing dishes at the Steak and Shake. So for me, the burden's sort of on me to differentiate myself from those other people, and I feel like that's really where the personal branding has come in, and that they don't see me as sort of money driven. They don't see me as just regurgitating whatever I've read online, but really drawing on my experience both inside the media and hearing pitches and seeing how things have developed on that end to being on the outside, pitching to the media, and seeing what works in the other direction. And at least in that way, I feel like I'm unique in the market, and there's some space between me and the other folks doing this.
And you've kind of walked both sides of the street. You graduated from Missouri State University and got your start early at the the Springfield newspaper, working the beat, I assume.
Well, my dad was a newspaper guy, and he worked at the paper in Springfield, and so I sort of grew up being around the newsroom and always found that interesting. I have a fair amount of writing ability. So basically, after I got into college, I went straight from working at McDonald's to working in the newsroom, answering the phone, freelancing stories, and sort of grew up writing sports, doing sports mostly, and that's sort of how my career evolved. I was a sports guy. It was an easy way to earn $50 a week to cover a high school game, and then it sort of, grew up around that. So,
and it's got to be interesting for you coming from those very small town newspapers. And I've had friends that have worked small town newspapers, and sometimes it ends up being more of a gossip rag than news. And I don't really mean any disrespect by that, but I mean just everything that's going on around town. It kind of gets that feel from time to time. But to do that and then go to work at the Oklahoman and then transition into more of an online capacity. You have really been through the transition of the newspaper industry and seen what's going on there. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, it was funny. Before I worked at the Oklahoman, I worked in Muskogee. I was a sports editor there for a few years. And I remember having the discussion in Muskogee in about 1998 or 99 about having a website. And I was dead set against worrying about the internet at that point, because I remember there had been a study that came out that showed that a third of the people in Muskogee and Cherokee County didn't have a phone line. And I was like, these people don't even have phones. They're not going to get on the internet. So I poo-pooed that whole idea. And then...
Prince says it's dead.
The Prince says the internet is
Prince
dead?
says the internet is dead now.
Well, consider the source, I guess. So something, but personally, as I got to do stuff with the web more and more, I just fell in love with it. And to me, no one is more of an advocate for the web now, because it's, I think it's the greatest invention that's ever been done. I think being able to have a device in your pocket that can answer any question that you can think of is exactly what mankind has been moving towards. Knowledge to me is the greatest gift you can give, and that combined with sort of our best nature is really, to me, what's powering the web.
Thank God for Al Gore. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, well, he can take all the credit he wants for that. So, yeah, it's been, to just talk about journalism, though, for if we want to go on that tack, it's really been transformative. And what, to me, is one of the key things is that it took the decision of what was important out of the hands of a very few people and gave it back to the hands of the readers and the consumers of that information. Because up until when you could look at a website and see the ranking of the stories that had been read, you were always playing a guessing game of we think people are interested in this. And those conversations happened every day at every newspaper I'd ever worked in. The people who worked at the paper, and God love them, they were well-intentioned, would sit around the table and pick what they thought was the most interest to the people in their community, based on sometimes nothing, based on sometimes hunches, based on focus groups rarely, but never sort of, the raw numbers were never there. Unless you were standing over someone at their breakfast table when they were reading that paper in the morning, you could never know if you did it the right way. And I think the web, as well as some metrics and sort of more of a business sense about people in newsrooms, have changed that now to where we're giving people what they want at last. And the conflict comes where people don't want to let go of that power that they've had, and a certain segment of people working in journalism don't think of themselves in a business sense, and don't think necessarily popularity of content is a good thing. So it's sort of we're going to give you vegetables because you need to eat your vegetables. So that's where the conflict is going on in newsrooms.
Do you not see it as a bit of a double-edged sword, though, especially for a guy that grew up as a journalist writing for a newspaper, and now you want to have a business doing this, and you've been a professional about it. But by the same token, somebody who just quit working at McDonald's, or maybe is still working at McDonald's, can have a blog that, they may not have the knowledge, the writing skill, but they may have people that want to read what they write. I mean, it's kind of opened the market up for anybody. Sure. Same way with reality television. And coming from a television background, I get very frustrated in turning on the TV now and seeing that it no longer, from my standpoint as somebody who has hosted TV shows and everything, now you don't even have to have any broadcasting experience to be on a lot of shows, much less, I can only imagine what the writers who have written, some of the most successful crime dramas or law dramas, comedies, those shows have been pretty much wiped off the slate for reality programming.
Well, I think I think it's all going to be, there's a little bit of elitism in all of this. And I think the journalists who write about bloggers who sit around in their pajamas blogging are doing that a little bit out of fear, because, just like I talk to businesses, my opinion is that everybody has some expertise. And the guy who lives next door to me who has a blog about, the latest episode of SpongeBob SquarePants might not be valuable to me, but my 10-year-old who wants to read about SpongeBob SquarePants, or just insert whatever you want to in that.
Right.
Model railroading, gardening, anything that this guy might do is going to have some value to people, and that's where journalists, for the most part, who've had to spend their lives as sort of generalists, might not understand that, but just like me in a very specialized sort of business, if I can get a handful of people to value my services, I can make a good living out of that. If that blogger can get 100 people, 200 people to read his blog all the time, then that's a success. It's like it's very much going to niches. It's very much going to very specialized content online, and so it's hard for the mass media to sort of grasp that and adjust to that.
What do you think the viability of the newspaper business is right now?
Well, all of what I said being said, I still think there is value in original reporting. Until Google invents a robot that's going to go to the Edmond City Council meeting or go to the Dell City football game, original reporting is going to have to be done somewhere by someone. It might end up being done. It might be done by, instead of a big company, it might be done by two bloggers who have a blog dedicated to Dell City. It's just going to have to come from somewhere, and this is sort of the fracturing that we're dealing with right now from sort of this, the conversations we had in the newsroom was this discussion of mass versus class. Are we going to continue along this road and be a mass medium where we're trying to get stories out there that appeal to as many people as we can? Or are we going to tailor our content to women over 50 who have a household income of $200,000 who live in Northwest Oklahoma City and Edmond? And that's the sort of discussions that are taking place. And if the mass media can't service that particular audience, then there might be a blog or someone online who does that for them.
But do you think, a piece of paper that you hold in your hand, is there any life left in that? Or we talk about content, and you can find everything that you want for any kind of content on the web, and most newspapers now have a website, and they're delivering their content there, and it's obviously easier to load it up. The costs are less, but yet there are still, Pubco and newspapers all across the country are still putting out a print product. But what's your opinion of it?
Well, I just think that it's not part of someone's day anymore, and that's where eventually I think the print product is going to go away. Because if you think about it, the first thing I look at when I wake up in the morning is my phone. I check my email. I check my social networks. And I might, read some news content on there, New York Times or News OK or what have you. And that's the last thing I look at when I go to bed at night, because it is fluid, it is dynamic, it is new, and everything. And, frankly, the print product is a relic of an age that we don't live in anymore. You're getting things that are at best 12 hours old in the print product, and I think there's some space for some really, great, well-written analysis and that sort of piece. I love to read the Sunday sports section after an OU football game. I love to see what Barry Trammell has to say. I love to sort of, take that all in as an event. But I think if you look at, I'm an anomaly. I'm 37 years old, and if they stop delivering the paper to my house every morning, it really is not going to affect me. I might not get the coupons on Wednesday.
Right, I'm the same way.
But it's not going to change my life significantly. It's not going to change my news consumption, because there's still a place for me to get that. I think anyone younger than me, hardly any of those people get the paper. It is very rare. The numbers and the demographics are just not with them to support the print publication. This is a business, and again, I love all of these people, and it's something that's really near and dear to my heart, the whole business. And for a long time, the goal of my life was to save this thing, and I knew that was untenable. But this is a business where literally its best customers are dying. The average age is over 50, and in 10 years, a lot of those people just aren't going to be around, and there's nobody coming up behind them to replace them as 7-day-a-week home delivery subscribers. And so and then you got to look at sort of the bottom line of it, where, increasingly it's going to be for papers that it's going to they're going to lose money for every truck that they send out and put that on somebody's doorstep.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you believe how it has changed over? I'm just a couple of years older than you, although I look about 10 years younger than you do.
Yes, you're a handsome man.
But I mean, in our adult lifetime, I mean, the change that has taken place with media and the growth of the internet, I mean, it's unbelievable to me when I sit down and think about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, when we were kids, in the 70s and 80s, I had 5 channels when I was a kid.
I can remember when, and I'm sure you can too, TV went off. I mean, there was no, at midnight,
Yeah,
you're done.
Exactly. It was
It went
like
off. The Star
they played the Star
Spangled
Spangled Banner, and they showed the jet. I remember that like it was yesterday. But then I also remember when we got the box for our cable.
Yeah.
And I remember when people were talking about digital cable, and I remember logging on bulletin boards when I was a kid, when sort of the first things on the web were these BBS message boards that you would get on. And I still remember to this day when a few people I knew from a message board online in 1987 were all going to go bowling one night together. And I told my mom, I'm like, hey, I'm going to meet these people that I know from the computer. And it was like, they were all, child murderers,
Right.
potentially.
And that was some sort of DOS system, and it was all
You would log in with your 2600 baud modem, and you would talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and it was a good old time. But yeah, it's remarkable that sort of the choice my kids have now, as opposed to what we had, either Walter Cronkite or whoever when I was a kid, Dan Rather.
Yeah, and I'm if you've got kids, you're probably like I am, and I probably use it differently. I use I didn't have that when I was a kid. You don't need it, and that's getting harder and harder, especially with you don't need to get on the internet to study for school because go get a book. And well,
my 3, I mean, it's also ridiculously intuitive now. And my 3-year-old son knows how to pick up my iPhone, slide to the app that he wants, click on it, and play a game. And he's 3. And my son, who's 10, knows that if he has a question about something, it used to be sort of, Beaver Cleaver would ask Ward Cleaver, why is the sky blue? But now my son, who's 10, knows that he can get on Wikipedia and pretty much find out the history of anything that he wants to, and have that sort of thirst for knowledge quenched.
Well, with my kids, I had a good thing going because they would, if I would say a word that they didn't know, I would say, go look it up. Go get a dictionary and look it up. Well, our middle daughter got an iTouch recently, and so she has dictionary on there because she saw it on my iPhone. So now she won't even go look it up. She just pulls up the dictionary there, which is good. She's still looking it up, but I kind of like that little extra. You go to and open the book up and look it up.
Right. Well, I'm sort of new school like that. One of the things that I was notorious about at the Oklahoman was I went around one day and threw away everyone's phone book because I was like, we don't need these anymore. And they're like, oh, it's a phone book. I'm like, dude, call Google. If you're going to live in this world now, we need to be able to look stuff up on the web. So.
Yeah, it's amazing how much has changed. We'll talk a little bit about Smirk New Media, the new business. What is your approach? You go out. Can you talk about anybody that you've partnered with so far?
Well, we're still sort of closing deals at this point. What I'm really encouraged about is this offering that we have, what we're calling content shepherding, and that's where we're working with web design companies to work with their clients on the delivery of content. And the reason that excites me is because it's sort of a win-win-win for everyone. There's a lot of great web design companies in Oklahoma City who are doing great work, and for some of them, they'll design a great site. It's going to be wonderful and really functional. And the thing that's holding that back from debuting to the world is getting content from the clients. And these are people who work hard at their businesses and just might not have the time or the inclination to sit down and write a contact us page or sit down and write a splash page. And what I want to do is sort of be the plumber and unclog the pipes there and be able to get that content to where it needs to be, get it on that site, make that a great site for that business. And so, we've got some potential partnerships cooking there that should come through. This week will be a great week for us. Another thing I'm doing for companies is I'm big on helping them write social media policies for their employees because it's sort of a peace of mind situation for businesses where they jump into the deep end of the pool when it comes to using social media for their marketing, and their employees don't really know where the boundary lines are as far as what can I do as an employee in this space when I'm talking to people about what I do at work.
Is that anything like a morals clause, or?
Well, there's a lot of rules that companies have to go by to keep themselves out of trouble in terms of privacy, in terms of confidential business. Mm-hmm. I can sort of do a very scary pitch on this sometimes, but essentially if you're working at a business, you're one click away from the world knowing who all your clients are, what all your financials are, and all the deals that you have in process if an employee decides to be sort of unscrupulous like that. But also you want to protect your brand, and that the law is more and more holding companies accountable for what their employees do online. If you decide, well, I'm not going to sexually harass Betty Lou, the secretary, at work, but I'm going to be her Facebook friend, and I'm going to send her some pretty righteous Facebook messages about what I'd like, what I'd like her and I to do. The company can be held accountable for that. So you've got to know sort of what your employees are doing, give them good guidelines for how they can protect themselves, how the brand can be protected, and sort of make sure that social media is working in everyone's favor. And so I've done a lot of that before, and that's something I'm pitching right now to folks. So
very good. Well, Mike Koehler, we wish you good luck with the new endeavor. It is Smirk New Media, and they can find you online at...
well, like I say, I'm the most successful, I'm the easiest to find guy on the web. If you see the letters MKOKC, that's me wherever you go, on Twitter, on Facebook, on just about everywhere. SmirkNewMedia.com is the website of our business, and Smirk New Media is our Twitter and Facebook account as well. So I'd be happy to connect with anybody.
Excellent. Well, Mike, we appreciate you coming in and being on the OKC show and talking about Smirk New Media and the world of media in general. It's been a pleasure. And my thanks to the main man out here, producer of the show, Nathan Davis, Nate Dogg. And my name is Jason Baffrey. I'm the host. You can find us online at www.okcshow.com. Probably don't need to say that www anymore, do everybody just knows if you say
it's
OKC.
Sort of taken for granted.
I just like doing it. But, also find us on Twitter at OKC Show. We have a Facebook fan page as well, and more content coming. Mike Koehler, Smirk New Media, has been our guest. Mike, thanks again.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. We are out of here.
The OKC Show is a production of Destiny Creative.